I'm Mac McCorkle, Director of Polis, the Center for Politics here at Duke University.
And I'm Deandra Rose, the Director of Research here at Polis.
It's our pleasure to welcome you to our inaugural policy pitch competition. As we all know, the year 2020 and now the year 2021 both have been putting spotlights on the many policy challenges facing our society. And one of our main goals at Polis is to help energize and empower the current student generation to pitch in and help lead the efforts to face our many policy challenges.
Tonight, our top 3 teams will make one final pitch for the top honors. We'll also hear from our special guests, the Duke University Pitchforks, the Duke University Cheerleaders, and the Duke Blue Devil Mascot. We're very excited that you're here with us tonight. Also want to send a special shout out to our many alums who are watching us from around the world. Congratulations to those of you who are celebrating your reunion.
So good luck to our teams.
Good luck, everybody. Recognizing that big problems demand bold solutions, the Polis Innovation Accelerator asked Duke students to team up to craft policy proposals that offer innovative solutions to one of 4 areas: voting, science and technology, racial justice, and COVID-19 and public health. Over 100 Duke students representing a range of academic programs on campus answered the call. More than 30 teams submitted innovative policy proposals to take on some of our most pressing challenges. Our team of expert judges evaluated all of these proposals on the basis of critical measures like clarity, scope, impact, and political feasibility. And in March, the judges selected the top 7 proposals to advance to the second round of competition, where semifinalists worked with a mentor who provided feedback as they workshopped their proposals. The top 3 teams, Policy Plant Power, The Standard, and The Urbanists, have advanced to the final round. Tonight, we will watch them compete to win this year's policy pitch competition.
Hello, everyone. My name is Morena Martinez, and I'm the PhD Fellow at Polis Duke Center for Politics. I'm excited to welcome you to tonight's special event. Last night, the teams participated in a preliminary round of competition and received scores for their written policy pitch and extended proposal presentations before the judges. Tonight, the remainder of their scores will be determined by their final pitches and their Q&A session with the judges. In just a few moments, we're going to invite the finalists to make one last pitch to take home top prize in tonight's competition. But first, we're honored to introduce our all-star panel of judges. Our first judge is Joyce Brayboy. Joyce is a managing director and lobbyist in the Office of Governmental Affairs at Goldman Sachs. Early in her career, she served as chief of staff to North Carolina Congressman Melvin Watt. While working in the U.S. House of Representatives, she held a number of congressional leadership positions, including president of the bipartisan House Chiefs of Staff Association. Joyce holds a BA in Public Policy Studies from Duke University and an MBA from Johns Hopkins University. Welcome, Joyce.
Good evening. Thank you so much.
So, Joyce, in your opinion, what makes a great policy pitch?
I think what makes a policy pitch is to be sure and clearly state what is the policy that you're trying to address, and to also take into consideration all of the pros and cons, both sides of the arguments. Have you taken the time to identify what's most important in terms of what are the key factors? Is it actually a viable solution that you're striving to come up with? And that should take into account a number of factors, not just it's obvious a cost benefit analysis, but just overall, is it really something that can be accomplished if in fact you're able to clearly identify the problem and then clearly map out a viable solution.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Next up, we have Patrick Steele. Patrick is the Chief Executive Officer of Politico, the world's largest politics-focused newsroom, where his portfolio includes oversight of operations, strategy, and growth. His previous positions included Senior Managing Director and Co-Head of Capital Markets at FBR Capital Markets and Company, Special Assistant to President Bill Clinton, and Presidential Scheduler in the White House. Patrick holds a BA from the University of Pennsylvania, a master's degree from University College London, and an MBA from Georgetown University. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me as a judge.
Thanks so much for being here. So this competition is all about developing bold solutions to address big problems. What would you say the biggest political problem is that we face these days?
I think this is a long-standing problem, but it continues to erode, and that's really our ability to restore trust and confidence in our public institutions. And that means government, nonprofits, the media, of which I represent. But I really do think that sort of finding that functioning political center of our country where we trust and can all sort of believe in a common set of facts, I think is critically important at this point in our country.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Our next judge is Mintu Pham. Mintu is co-founder of New American Voices, which mobilizes Asian American voters and advises foundations and nonprofits on global trends and institutions. Prior to that, she served as executive director of global policy at the United Nations Foundation. After the Iraq War, Mintu was advisor to UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, and she's worked in Bosnia and Ethiopia. Mintu graduated from Duke in 1998 with majors in history and political science, and she also holds a master's in public policy from Princeton. Hello, Mintu.
Hi there, it's so great to be here. Thanks for asking me to be a judge.
Thanks for joining us. So what piece of advice would you give to the teams presenting tonight?
Goodness, well, we've already seen their preliminary presentations and I was very impressed. So basically have fun, you know the stuff cold. Have fun, be clear as you were with us in your presentations, and really just enjoy the evening. You should be proud of the work that you've already done.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have Dominique Moore. Dominique is a Duke MPP class of 2019. Dominique is now a Presidential Transitions Fellow at Deloitte Greenhouse. Prior to his work at Deloitte, Dominique worked as a human capital consultant focused on workforce transformation with government and state agencies. Dominique also holds a BA from UNC Chapel Hill and a law degree from North Carolina Central University. Hi, Dominique.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. So as a recent graduate of Sanford's MPP program, what would you say are the most important skills necessary to become an effective problem solver?
Definitely taking in the problem as a whole and looking at it from all perspectives, including different stakeholders, internally and externally, making sure that you have a full grasp of what you're trying to attack before starting out.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dominique. And last but not least, we have Sam Walker. Sam Walker is an executive in residence at the Colorado Attorney General's office. Before Sam's return to public service, he was the longest serving chief level officer in the history of the Molson Coors Brewing Company, a New York Stock Exchange traded company with operations in over 70 countries. Sam graduated from Duke in 1980 with a major in public policy, and he holds a law degree from Harvard Law School. Hello, Sam.
Hi.
So what do you think the audience should pay particular attention to when watching tonight's pitches?
First of all, I want to say congratulations to the finalists. You all are amazing. I was so impressed with your papers and your presentations, and I couldn't have done anything like that at your age, like nowhere close. So congratulations, guys. I just to sound the notes that my fellow judges have already sounded. Relax, quiet your minds, connect with the thoughts that you've already expressed so well, and connect to people's hearts because that I think is ultimately so important.
Thank you so much, Sam. And with those valuable insights from our judges, we're ready to hear from our first team. Our Polis Directors Fellows will introduce the teams, and each team will have 2 to 4 minutes to make their final pitch before taking some questions from the judges. So take it away, Sania.
Hi, everyone. So first up, we have the Urbanists, focusing on the areas of racial justice. This team includes undergraduates Lindsay Hu, a civil engineering major, Selma Comber, who plans to study sustainable urban development, and Ida Lee, who is studying housing justice and the environment. They will now present their pitch titled Rapid and Resilient Getting Durham Residents and Innovative Affordable Housing Fast.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for having us. We are so grateful to be here and just excited to share our pitch about affordable housing in Durham. And I'll hand it off to Lindsay to start us off with some background.
Yeah, so first let's look at context on the problem that we're trying to solve. So across the US and in Durham specifically, the affordable housing supply has been underfunded, low in supply, and in deteriorating condition for a very long time. The latest affordable housing report from the Durham Housing Authority, or DHA, reveals that for every 100 low-income households, 62 will not have access to an affordable housing unit. And the COVID-19 pandemic only exacerbated the existing crisis, which is all the more concerning as affordable housing is fundamentally tied to racial justice. And the current crisis is further deteriorating racial equality. It remains the fact that Black people and other racial minorities are much more likely to need affordable housing, and they suffer disproportionately from the underperformance of the public housing sector. Right now, the DHA is renovating their housing units and devising new funding strategies for construction and maintenance costs, but it's estimated to take around 10 years to reach properties just outside of downtown. There are currently thousands of Durham residents who can't pay their rent and are at risk of homelessness when the eviction moratorium ends on June 30th this year. Durham residents cannot wait for 10 years. It is clear that the affordable housing crisis and its racial implications must be addressed immediately. The bottom line is there's an urgent need for more affordable housing to be built.
In response to the affordable housing crisis that is currently going on and which has a disproportionate effect on racial minorities, we propose the construction of prefabricated affordable accessory dwelling units to rapidly provide housing relief. Ida, take us away.
So what are prefabricated accessory dwelling units, or ADUs? When we say ADUs, we want you to think of standalone mother-in-law suites, which are independent living spaces on the same property as a single-family home. Prefabrication just means that parts of the unit will be pre-made in a factory and then brought to the desired property and pieced together, which is a much faster and cheaper construction process than typical construction. And where? These units would be in South or East Durham, preferably going to middle or lower income property owners.
Your next question is, who's involved in this program? First, we have the tenants who are looking for affordable housing. We also have the property owners who are offering their property to build ADUs and then rent them at affordable prices. Pulling these two actors together is the Durham Housing Authority, who will mediate and facilitate this relationship. Our plan for our proposal expands the Durham Affordable Housing Loan Fund, which historically has offered large-scale loans to developers in affordable housing projects uptown, and we want them to support single-family home property owners in building ADUs in your backyard. In return, the property owner rents the ADU at an affordable rate for at least 5 years. We anticipate that this program will take 1 year from program application to rental, and then the rental phase extends for 5 or more years.
In conclusion, our policy solution addresses Durham's urgent affordable housing crisis, supporting equitable economic recovery. This is essential due to the history of marginalization and the devastating impacts of the pandemic on minority populations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, urbanists and judges. Over to you for questions. Would anyone like to start? Patrick, maybe you'd like to jump in first.
Sure. This is a relatively new technology, my understanding. I have heard of these units being constructed at factories. How big of a problem in terms of just given that it's untested, do you think building political support will be, given that it's an untested technology?
One of the things that we came across in our research was that there are a few small scale pilot programs in Santa Cruz and LA that have had some success. And we've built off of those projects in our proposal, tried to address a couple of the loopholes that we think delayed support for those projects. One of those loopholes was that in those proposals, there was not complete support for homeowners. There were only partial loans to cover part of the cost of the ADU. So part of our proposal is that the loans the DAH-LF would offer are entirely covering the cost of the ADU. Building off of that, we don't entirely know. We're really hoping to see some bipartisan support based on the market forces that we're using in this proposal. And we've gotten some good feedback from both Durham City Council, NGOs, and community members.
Great, thank you.
Hi guys, this is really great. Thanks so much for your great work on this. Question for you in terms of just, this being an incredibly difficult issue that has a lot of systemic factors that underlie the problem. When you look at the sort of limited political capital and attention that can be focused on this, can you talk a little bit about the trade-off between your solution here and other solutions and why you came to this one?
Yeah, something that Zoe just touched on are the market forces that are kind of inherent in our proposal and our solution. Usually when you think of affordable housing, you think of possibly Democratic candidates supporting it, but we use, the housing market to solve this problem. And like you said, and this is a really tough proposal, a really tough issue. And I'm not sure if my video is breaking up, but yeah, this is a really tough issue. And, we think that through bipartisan support, this is, a really viable option.
I'll add that we anticipate this to be an addition of traditional housing, affordable housing development. This is intended to have a separate funding from the DAH-LF loan fund.
And what do you think would be some incentives to encourage property owners to be willing to partner and take this on? Yeah, so right now, in face of the pandemic, there's an economic downturn and people are looking for a source of passive income. And so we propose that the rent payments that the tenant is making to pay back the loan made to construct the ADU, part of that rent payment will go to the homeowner directly first, so that they have that immediate source of passive income. So they have that immediate incentive to kind of, partner with the government to make this program work out. And in the long term, the ADU will eventually become, after a certain, say 5 years, after they've leased this as affordable housing for 5 years, the ADU, they can apply to make the ADU part of their property. So that is a more long-term incentive. So we kind of consider both more shorter term and a longer term incentive for the homeowner.
And just adding to that, just to clarify, there is the fund that Zoe mentioned. So the property owner would have financing available to them to construct the ADU. So it wouldn't be coming out of pocket and, they're really struggling and they don't have, enough funds to come in throughout each month. There is that initial support as well.
Thank you so much, the Urbanists. And with that, your final pitch time has expired. Congratulations, you guys did a wonderful job. I'm excited to introduce our next Director's Fellow, Olivia, and she's going to introduce our next team.
All right, so our next policy pitch is coming from the Standard, and this team is focusing on the area of science and technology. Their team members are undergraduate public policy majors, Sasha Gerber, Maya Miller, Talin Rausha, and Sagar Shah. And their proposal is titled Clean Energy Standard, Produce Jobs, Reduce Emissions.
All right, are we ready to go?
Yeah, okay.
Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Our team, The Standard, proposes implementing a clean energy standard for North Carolina. Our policy aims to address both North Carolina's unemployment crisis and the state's lag in emissions reductions. Our policy has bipartisan appeal, which is crucial in a purple state like North Carolina. Most importantly, it aligns with the preferences of Duke Energy, the state's largest energy provider and a powerful influence in the state legislature.
To give a little context, 300,000 North Carolinians have lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and funding for relief programs is extremely limited. At the same time, utilities are not on track to meet emissions reduction goals. The current policy, known as the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, reaches its maximum requirement this year, topping out at 12.5% of electricity coming from renewable energy sources. Without new policy, North Carolina will plateau at 12.5% and continue to rely on coal and natural gas. The state could face billions of dollars in property damage without a change in our energy portfolio. It's time to update our existing policy to both produce jobs and reduce emissions.
So what is a clean energy standard? Essentially, it requires utilities to generate a certain amount of electricity from energy sources that don't emit carbon. Basically, the state government sets the standard at a fixed percentage, let's say 50%. This means that 50% of all utilities' electricity sales have to come from non-emitting resources. A utility proves that they are following the policy by owning clean energy credits, which serve as certificates attached to each unit of clean energy generated. These tradable certificates raise the market value of clean energy, encouraging the construction of clean energy resources across the state. A clean energy standard will create over 37,000 jobs by 2050 through expanding clean energy supply chains here in North Carolina. This economic growth translates to a net increase of over $3 billion in gross state product. Additionally, a clean energy standard will lead to lower electricity bills by 2043 compared to the path that we are currently on.
A clean energy standard differs from the existing policy in two unique ways. First, our policy will expand the list of eligible resources beyond just renewables like wind and solar to include other non-emitting resources such as nuclear, large hydropower, and natural gas with carbon capture. This expansion gets us to a 50% clean energy portfolio. Second, our policy requires utilities to generate a greater percentage of their electricity from clean energy resources. That requirement scales up from the existing 50% in 2023 all the way to 95% by 2050.
This policy is designed with feasibility at the forefront. Bipartisan appeal is crucial to any policy's survival in North Carolina. A clean energy standard will appeal to both conservatives and liberals with its market-based and business-friendly approach to reducing carbon emissions. A key political stakeholder is Representative John Zoka, the fourth most powerful Republican in the state legislature, who has established himself as a champion of clean energy policy. With his buy-in and influence, he'll prioritize the issue and get other lawmakers on board. Another stakeholder is Duke Energy. The utility serves more than 3.5 million customers in North Carolina alone and has incredible influence over the legislature. Good news is Duke Energy CEO Lynn Good has publicly stated that Duke prefers policies that use market incentives, like the Clean Energy Standard, over more restrictive policies such as the forced retirement of coal plants. By working with Duke Energy, we increase our chances of passing this policy. As we stated earlier, though, North Carolina faces an unemployment crisis and lags behind its emissions reduction goals. A clean energy standard can make progress on both of these issues by producing jobs and reducing emissions.
Thank you so much, the standard. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to our judges. Dominique, would you like to start?
Hi, yes, thanks. So you mentioned that roughly 300,000 North Carolinians have lost their jobs due to COVID. However, this policy initiative would only create around 37,275 jobs. Can you speak more to the difference in those numbers and how you think this could be an effective solution?
Yeah, I can take this one. So it's definitely notable that although 300,000 people in North Carolina have lost their job due to the pandemic, our policy only will create 37,000 jobs by 2050. And the reason that we believe our policy is still the most effective way to combat this crisis while also reducing emissions is that the Nicholas Institute for Environmental Solutions actually released a report recently that compared 4 different types of climate policies, the most popular ones at least, that included carbon tax, accelerated coal retirement, a CES clean energy standard and the status quo, which is the renewable energy portfolio standard. And it found that in terms of reducing emissions, the only policy that beat a CES was the accelerated coal retirement, which was listed at 68% versus the CES's 65% reduction. But in terms of net present value, economic development, jobs creation, a CES blew all the other three policies out of the water and was the only one that created significant economic development. And it makes sense when you think about the fact that when you're encouraging clean energy development in a state, that means that it's going to come at the expense of the fossil fuel industry. And so you're going to be losing a ton of jobs there. So just the fact that this policy is creating a net positive of 37,000 jobs is a real benefit and key thing to take away in our mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think we all recognize that there are other policy solution options out there that might create more jobs or might reduce emissions by a larger percentage, but those policies don't do both at the same time, and they aren't as politically feasible as a CES. And if the goal is to get a policy passed in the North Carolina political system, in the current political climate, we think that this is really the best option available.
Team, I understand the appeal of market forces and free market forces, but timing is everything. How would you answer critics of the Texas experiment with free market forces that left a lot of people cold and paying very high prices for energy?
So the thing about Texas is the regulatory framework, not necessarily the role of renewables and market forces. So North Carolina has a very traditional regulatory structure. And so things like that just don't really happen in North Carolina unless there's a really unless we talk about the hurricane that came 2 years ago. But in North Carolina, that's just less likely to occur. And one of Duke Energy's primary goals, both as a utility and also in response to the regulator, is reliability. Reliability is their number one most important thing they can do. And so Texas is just a very different regulatory system, right? Different regulatory environment. And so we don't expect situations like that to occur because of our policy. If anything, our policy is making the system more resilient. With a greater diversification of resources, it means when a cold snap occurs, all of your natural gas generators don't go offline because you have solar running still, you have wind running still, you have battery storage, right? So diversification of resources is good for the system with still a strong regulatory framework like we have in North Carolina.
Can I ask, in the move from REPS to your current CES proposal, how did you think about compromise, and what were some of the trade-offs that you made to achieve bipartisan support given the divided legislature and executive branch?
Yeah, I can talk about that. I think from the beginning, when we were considering all the options, it seemed like the CES was just inherently a politically appealing option, because really all we're proposing doing is going line by line in the current reps and editing first the resources that will quote unquote count as clean energy. So expanding the definition from just solar and wind and other renewables to other non-emitting sources such as large hydropower or natural gas with carbon capture and sequestration. That part is essential, so then it's net zero emissions. So I don't really think we necessarily had to think a whole lot about compromising that further, because it's just kind of baked into the policy itself. This is not radical change. We're going in line by line and saying, okay, the original policy wants renewables, we're going to make that into just clean energy as a more expansive option and really we're trying to give the state a broader array of sources that they can choose from to count towards this.
Sorry, Marina.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, but I have to tell you that your 10 minutes has elapsed. Thank you so much for a wonderful pitch. Great job, guys. So with that, our second pitch for the evening has finished up, and we will now be welcoming James to introduce us to our third and final team.
Thanks, Marina. Our final policy pitch focuses on the area of racial justice. Team Policy Plant Power consists of Master of Public Policy students Aaron Dickinson, Kelly Jashura, Catherine Otero, and Kelly Shen. They will now present their policy pitch titled, "A Proposal to Create a Shaded Pathways Program, Growing a Healthier Future."
Great, thanks, James. So, hi everyone, and we are
Policy,
Plant,
Power.
and today we're so excited to share with you our policy proposal to create a statewide shaded pathways program here in North Carolina.
Shaded pathways are tree-lined sidewalks that can provide a heat-safe way for people to reach everyday and emergency services, such as cooling centers and grocery stores. So this is really important because as a result of climate change, North Carolina will experience higher temperatures and extreme heat days. Extreme heat is a significant health risk and kills on average 700 people per year across the United States. So this heat is particularly onerous for communities of color. This is largely due to the impact of historic redlining practices where investments and resources were intentionally diverted from these communities. As a result, today, they have less green space and more paved surfaces like parking lots. These parking lots absorb more heat compared to greenery like trees and do not provide shade, which makes these communities on average hotter. So, our policy solution of a shaded pathways program will not only help to mitigate these harsh effects of climate change and extreme heat, but also help to address racial inequities by specifically placing these pathways in communities that have historically been left out of these investments.
some of the costs that are associated with a shaded pathways program in North Carolina are the cost of initial research on where these pathways are most needed, as well as the implementation and the tree planting, and then continual maintenance to make sure that these trees remain in good health. And while there are, of course, costs associated with the program, there are so many benefits that come with increasing tree cover in North Carolina, and it's been found in multiple locations that the return on investment is twofold. And so some of the benefits that we see for shade pathways are improving human health. And so this is mitigating some of those heat effects as well as improving air quality, and also some natural stormwater management and many other eco benefits, as well as promoting equity, as our plan involves community members from the planning stages through the implementation and evaluation, and it addresses some of these historic and current discrepancies in the tree canopy cover in North Carolina. We also see this as being a politically feasible plan, as increasingly it has bipartisan support to increase tree cover and greening and address climate change across North Carolina, as well as we see it being administratively feasible because many cities across North Carolina already have urban forestry departments, and so implementing this will be administratively feasible in that way.
Specific groups that might support this policy include environmental justice advocates, politicians looking for politically palatable ways to address racial inequities in North Carolina, and medical professionals looking to cut down on heat-related hospitalizations. We also think this could garner significant support from the community by engaging them throughout the implementation process and utilizing their feedback to improve the program as a whole. While the state would provide initial funding for the program, we envision the longer-term funding partnerships could be developed with local businesses and nonprofits across the state that are already engaging in urban greening, such as Tree Charlotte and Keep Durham Beautiful. Universities could also play a part in long-term tree maintenance by encouraging hands-on learning for forestry and environmental science students. And with that, we'd like to open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Policy Plant Power. Joyce, we'd love to start with you.
Great job, team. I wanted to just ask, you talked about the people who would be the most supportive partners in this from a feasibility standpoint. But can you talk a little bit more about those? I know in your written proposal, you talked about the concerns that some of the affordable housing advocates have. Could you talk about some of those concerns and how you think that can be addressed and overcome?
Yeah, for sure. I can take on this one. So I think that, like you said, a lot of people are worried about trees being planted and then resulting in rising house prices because of gentrification. So I think that is something that we would have to take in consideration and make sure that if the land value is going up, that this isn't disproportionately impacting the people who live in those areas. I think another thing that people are concerned about is that when cities do go into these less resourced communities, they might plant the trees and then leave them without providing them the proper maintenance. And people get upset if falling branches cause property damage. So we think that it's really important to foster a relationship with the communities that the city will be going into, which can happen through that engagement phase that we touched on in our proposal.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for this. Two quick questions. One is just about this seems to be a solution to deal with some of the adaptation effects of climate change, heat, and then health. Are there any mitigation effects that you can speak to for your solution? And then secondly, on political prioritization for politicians in New York, where would you place that in terms of other climate solutions that North Carolina may need to look at?
Could you clarify what you mean by the mitigation effects?
Sure. So in your policy solution description, it sounds like aside from the sort of the issues around race, this was also a solution to some of the heat problems that will result in increase as a result of climate change. And so this is really a solution to adapt to a heating climate, as opposed to a solution that's going to mitigate the cause of climate change. And so how then does that, is there a mitigation effect with planting trees in your proposal? And then secondly, given that it is mostly, I think, an adaptation solution, how then should a politician in North Carolina prioritize it relative to other climate solutions for the state?
Yeah. Well, luckily, trees are so great. They do both. And so the mitigation standpoint, planting more trees helps to sequester more carbon. And so they're taking that carbon out of the atmosphere, and that's helping with maintaining some of that warming and also managing some of that stormwater runoff that I mentioned. If we're getting heavier rains or more hurricanes, the trees will help manage that, as well as they just have like a general cooling effect through evapotranspiration. So releasing some of that cooling air and keeping the ground cooler as well. So luckily trees do a ton.
Yeah, and to address the political prioritization piece, even though we do both pieces, but it is especially important to also think about this adaptation piece, because these are real effects that people are experiencing right now. So it's really important to be making these investments right now, even though there is value in sort of that longer term framework as well. We do need to address some of the concerns that people are facing today.
I want to follow up on my colleague's question. In public service, we often find ourselves choosing between competing goods. If I were mayor of a city in North Carolina, how would I think about the leverage of this investment relative to the requirements of racial justice as compared with some other way that I might choose to spend money, or the city council might?
I think in large part, one of the things that we are thinking about with this policy is that it is pretty complementary to a lot of other efforts that are currently going on in terms of whether that's just general climate mitigation and adaptation, whether that's looking at heat issues, whether that's looking at general beautification of cities. It's low-hanging fruit, essentially. I think you could match this with a lot of active policies going out. And one of the things that we did make sure to include in this original policy was that there was room for partnerships with local businesses and nonprofits to really lower the cost of this policy. And so if we were thinking about it that way, if we were going to go and complement this with something else, I would imagine you'd be able to bring both under that funding umbrella.
Thank you so much, Policy Plant Power. And with that, your 10-minute time slot has elapsed. Thank you guys so much. And so with that being our last of our finalists, we are now finished with the final phase of our first ever policy pitch competition. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful teams for all your hard work. You guys have done an amazing job. So now we are just moments away from finding out which team will take home tonight's top prize. But before we do, we're excited to welcome our very special musical guest, the Duke Pitchforks.
Let's go Devils! Let's go Devils! Let's go Devils! Let's go Devils! Let's go
She was a bad, bad, nevertheless. Calling it quits now, baby, I'm a wreck. Crash on my place, baby, you're a wreck. Needless to say, I'm keeping a check. She was a bad, bad, nevertheless. Calling it quits now, baby, I'm a wreck. Crash on my place, baby, you're a wreck. Thinking in a bad way, losing your grip. Screaming in my face, baby, don't trip. Someone took a pic of all that fell. Looking at your sideways, party on tilt. Ooh, something you just can't refuse. She wanna ride like a cruise, and I'm not tryna lose. Then you're left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're a sunflower. I think your love will be too much. You'll be left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're a sunflower. You're a sunflower.
Every time I'm leaving on you, you don't make it easy, no, no. Wish I could be there for you. Give me a reason to go. Every time I'm walking out, I can hear you telling me to turn around. Fighting for my trust and you won't back down. Even if you gotta risk it all right now. I know you're scared of the unknown. You don't wanna be alone. I know what's come and go, but it's all under control.
And you're left in the dust, unless I stuck by you.
You're a sunflower.
I think you love me too much.
You'll be left in the dust,
unless I stuck by you. You're a sunflower. You're a sunflower. Ah, ooh.
In my mind, I'm going to Carolina to see the sunshine. Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm going to Carolina in my mind. Karen, she's a silver sun. You best walk her way and watch it shine. Watch her watch the morning come. Silver tear appearing now. I'm crying, ain't I? I'm going to Carolina in my mind. There ain't no doubt in no one's mind that love's the finest thing around. Whisper something soft and kind. Hey baby, the sky's on fire. I'm dying, ain't I? I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm going to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm going to Carolina in my mind.
Dark and silent late last night, I think I might have heard the highway calling. Geese in flight, dogs that bite. Signs they might be omens, say I'm going, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. With a holy host of others standing around me, still I'm on the dark side of the moon, and it seems like it goes on like this forever. must forgive me. If I'm up and gone to Carolina in my mind, in my mind I'm going to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine hit me from behind? Yes, I'm going to Carolina in my mind. In my mind.
Many, many, many thanks to the Duke Pitchforks and the Duke University Cheerleaders and the Duke Blue Devil Mascot for that wonderful performance. So, as we mentioned at the top of the hour, the teams have already participated in a preliminary round of competition with our judges. They were evaluated on their written policy proposals and an extended version of their policy pitch presentations. Over the course of this final round, each team was able to earn up to 180 points. A maximum of 100 points could be rewarded for their written pitches, 50 points for their extended presentations, and 30 points for the handling of the question and answer session during last night's preliminary session and tonight's final event. While our judges are finalizing their scores backstage, let's take a look at some of our prizes. The grand prize for the team winning first place is $1,000 for each member of the team. For second place, each team member will take home $500. And for the team winning third place, each member will go home with $250. In addition to our top prizes, the top 7 teams that made it to the semifinals also competed for the Audience Choice Award. Over the course of 2 weeks in March, our semifinalists presented their pitches to our Instagram followers. Friends, family, and members of the Duke community from around the world cast votes for their favorite pitches. After receiving more than 800 votes, we have crowned our top 2 Audience Choice winners. Each member of these top 2 teams will win $50 and a gift card for the Duke University stores. We are very excited to announce that our 2 winners are the Standard and RMV for RCV. RMV for RCV was one of the teams that made it to the semifinals but did not move forward to the finals. A fun fact about their team, they were the only team in the entire competition comprised of only first-year students. We are so proud of you and all of the hard work you guys have put in. Congratulations to our Audience Choice winners. And I am getting information that I believe our judges have finished tallying up our winners, and we are ready to announce first, second, and third place. So we're going to take a moment to pin the videos for all of our finalists, essentially welcoming them onto our virtual stage. Okay, great. All right, I think we've got just about everyone. And here we go, the moment you've all been waiting for. So our judges have finalized their scores, and the winner of third place and $250 for each team is the Urbanists. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, next up, the winners of second place and $500 per each team is Policy Plant Power. Congratulations, guys. And of course, that means that the winners of the 2021 Policy Pitch competition are the Standard. Congratulations. Fantastic job, guys. You guys put together a wonderful pitch and had a great presentation. So congratulations on being crowned the champions of our first ever policy pitch competition. We'd like to ask you guys, is there any words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with now that you're our 2021 champions?
So I just want to say thank you to everyone on our team. This was a great group that came up randomly and we worked really well together. So congratulations to y'all. Thank you to Professor Rose, the judges, as well as some of the folks at the Nicholas Institute who helped us get access to that report, and also some of the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. One of the things that we focused on throughout our pitch was you can have great ideas in this world, but if they can't become law, if they can't impact people, what purpose do they have? How are they making the change? And so we really came at this concept as this won't solve our emissions problem entirely. It's not going to solve our jobs problem entirely, but we can make progress in both aspects with a real piece of legislation that can become law. And so we'd encourage people to continue believing in pragmatic policymaking and to try to make change where change can be made. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the Standard. You guys did a wonderful, wonderful job. Huge congratulations to you all. And with that, we are a wrap on our first ever policy pitch competition. We'd like to say thank you so much to everyone who joined us tonight. And on behalf of Polis, the Center for Politics, we'd like to thank the Duke University Stores, the Duke Alumni Association, the Sanford Communications Team, the Duke Pitchforks, the Duke Cheerleaders, and Blue Devil Mascot, our round 1 and 2 judges, all of our wonderful mentors, and tonight's judges, Joyce Brayboy, Sam Walker, Mintu Pham, Patrick Steele, and Dominique Moore. We'd also love to thank our wonderful team here at Polis, Anna Kinnear, Susan George James, Bevan Summers, all of our directors, fellows, and of course, our wonderful leaders, Mac McCorkle and Deandra Rose. You've done a wonderful job, and we are so thankful to have been able to host this competition this year. Thank you guys so much and have a great night.